I never thought I'd be the guy typing out a story like this, but here I am. My name's Jason, and I've been married to Emily for about 7 years now. We were the kind of couple everyone thought was perfect. Good job, nice house, 2 kids, the whole 9 yards. But lately, things have been off. Small things at first. She started coming home later from work more often, and there was this weird attitude she'd get when I'd ask her about her day. Defensive, dismissive, like she was hiding something. I brushed it off, told myself maybe she was just stressed or busy, but deep down I sensed something was shifting. Then there were the little things. Missing jewelry, random messages on her phone that she quickly deleted when I entered the room, and her suddenly avoiding intimacy. We used to be pretty physically close, but now it was like pulling teeth to get her to even kiss me goodnight. I'd catch her lying about where she was going or who she was with, and it felt like walking on eggshells every time I brought it up. Still, I loved her and wanted to believe she was just going through a rough patch, but I knew that's what I was telling myself to stay sane. One day, I decided to follow her to see what she was up to. It was stupid, I know, but I just needed to see for myself if my gut was crazy or if I had a reason to panic. So I waited until she left for her gym class, which she's always claimed was her Pilates session. But instead of going there, I followed her to this tiny, tucked away building a few miles away. Turns out she's been sneaking off to some studio, something I'd never even heard of before. I pulled into a side street and parked, trying to look inconspicuous, and watched as she went inside. What I saw made my stomach drop. She was laughing and giggling in the parking lot with this guy, some young trainer, probably late 20s or early 30s, definitely not the type she'd be hanging out with normally. I saw her get into his car, and I swear she looked different, like she was genuinely into him. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but the way she touched his arm, the way she looked at him, it was obvious enough. She wasn't just there for some workout session, she was clearly hooking up with him. My head was spinning. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe it. After everything, she'd been cheating on me with a Pilates instructor of all things. The woman who claims she's too busy for anything, who's always bitching about how her life is so hard, was sneaking off to cheat in some storage room. I sat there, stunned, trying to process what I'd just seen. For a while, I was too angry to even move. Just sitting in my car, watching her laughing with him, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. I knew I'd have to confront her, but I also knew that my entire world had just crumbled. How had I missed all the signs? How did she manage to hide this from me so perfectly? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to that moment, her in that parking lot, her face lit up by some idiot's smile, the betrayal so blatant yet so hidden. I started questioning everything. Our marriage, who she really is, what kind of woman I married. I felt this mix of anger, shame, and sadness all at once. And I knew deep down that I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not without a fight. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. My head hurt, my stomach was tight, and the image from the night before kept replaying in my mind with brutal clarity. The betrayal was so raw it was hard to breathe. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? How could Emily, the woman I loved and trusted, cheat on me with some random trainer? And not just cheat, but do it in some storage room like it was nothing. I kept telling myself I must have misunderstood, that maybe it was just innocent flirting or a business meeting gone too far. But deep down, I knew better. I saw the way she looked at him, the way she touched him. There was no doubt in my mind this was something real. I needed to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine while I was falling apart inside. So, I waited until she came home that evening, trying to keep my emotions in check. When she walked through the door, I could see she was trying to act normal, like she had no idea I'd been watching her, like she thought I was clueless. She threw her bag on the couch, threw herself into the kitchen to make coffee, and I just stood there trying to keep calm. "Hey," she said, casting me a quick glance, her tone overly sweet. "How was your day?" "Good," I said, voice tight. "Actually, I need to talk to you about something important." She looked at me, eyebrows raised. "What is it?" Took a deep breath. "I followed you today. I saw you go to that studio, Emily." Her face flickered with something, defense maybe, or panic, it was hard to tell. "It's nothing, Jason, just some new workout class I wanted to try. It's not a big deal." I shook my head. That's bullshit. I saw you with that guy, what's his name, Ryan. You were all over him, laughing, touching. You got into his car. Don't lie to me anymore. Her eyes widened and she immediately started with the denial. You're crazy. You're making this up. I don't know what you saw, but you're mistaken. I've been busy with work, that's all. Maybe I went there once or twice, but it's nothing. Nothing? You're cheating on me, Emily. Is that what you're telling me? You're cheating with some guy in a storage room while I'm at work, or do you even care that I saw it? She scoffed. You're overreacting. You're just jealous. You always think I'm doing something wrong. Maybe you're the one with the secret, Jason. That hit me hard. Her words, her tone, she was good at flipping the script, acting innocent while throwing accusations my way. But I wasn't about to let her manipulate me. I pressed her further. Who is he? How long has this been going on? Did you sleep with him? Her face twisted into something bitter. Look, I don't owe you any explanations. I have a life, Jason. You're always accusing me of stuff, but you never listen. Maybe I've been feeling trapped. Maybe I wanted something more. Can a woman have a little fun? That was it. The fun part, I realized, was her excuse for everything. She didn't care if she hurt me. She just wanted her freedom or whatever it was she was chasing. I felt a surge of anger, but I also felt heartbreak. All those years of trust shattered in one moment. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just kept my voice steady. You're lying. I saw you. I saw what you did. And if this is how you want to play it, I'm done. She looked at me, eyes cold now, hatting. Fine. If you want to believe that, go ahead. But don't expect me to stay married to a guy who spies on me and calls me a cheat every other day. I couldn't believe her. The woman I married, the woman I loved, had turned into someone so cold, so manipulative. I wanted to believe there was some way to fix this, to save what we had, but I knew deep down that she didn't care. She'd already made her choice. I felt the tears welling up, but I pushed them down. I needed to be strong. For myself, for whatever dignity I had left. I told her I needed some time to think, and I left the house. I wandered around, mind racing, feeling numb and furious all at once. The betrayal cut so deep. I kept replaying that stupid image of her in the parking lot, her face lit up like she was in love with this guy. And I wondered, how long had this been going on? Was it just that day? Or was it happening for weeks, months? The thought made me feel sick. I couldn't trust her anymore. Not really. Not after this. I knew I had to figure out my next step. I wasn't going to just forgive and forget, not this time. I had to decide whether to fight for her, to try and save what was left of our marriage, or to cut my losses and walk away. Whatever I decided, I knew my life was never going to be the same again. The next few days were a blur of confusion, anger, and sadness. I couldn't concentrate on anything except that image of her in the parking lot, laughing and touching that guy Ryan like she didn't have a single care in the world. Every time I tried to sleep, I saw her face, so carefree, so damn happy with him. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I let this happen. I was angry at her, but I was even angrier at myself for not seeing it sooner, for not sensing that she was slipping away. I talked to a few friends, trying to get a handle on what I should do. Most of them told me to just leave her, that I deserved better. But part of me wanted to believe I could fix this, that somehow I could make her see what she's throwing away. Deep down, I knew that was probably just wishful thinking. Still, I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. One night, I decided I needed to see her again, confront her face to face, get some answers, and maybe find some clarity. I was sitting on the couch, staring at my phone when she came home. She looked tense, like she was hiding something. She tried to act normal at first, saying she was sorry for everything and acting like she genuinely cared. But I wasn't buying it. I looked her straight in the eyes and asked her about Ryan. Her face stiffened and she rolled her eyes. You're obsessed with him, it's pathetic. Tell me the truth. I demanded. Are you sleeping with him? She hesitated, then sighed heavily. Yeah, I am, but it's not what you think. It's just sex, Jason. It's not serious. That's when it hit me. I'd been such a fool. She was justifying it, dismissing it as not serious, but I knew better. I could see the truth in her eyes. She'd been lying all along, hiding this affair, thinking she could get away with it forever. I felt a cold rage bubbling up inside me. How dare she treat me like I was stupid? Like I didn't matter. I asked her why she did it. Her answer, because I wasn't enough. because I was boring, predictable, not exciting enough to keep her interested. She said she wanted to feel alive again and that I was just holding her back. That's when I realized she'd been planning this for a while, building up her excuses, convincing herself she was justified. I told her she needed to leave. I couldn't be in the same house with her anymore, not after what she'd done. She yelled, called me crazy, said I was overreacting, told me I was the one who ruined everything. But I was done listening. I told her if she wanted to be with Ryan, then just go. I didn't want to see her face anymore, didn't want to be around her lies. She stormed out that night, leaving her stuff behind, still screaming, still pretending she was the victim. I stood there in silence, watching her walk out the door, feeling a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I knew I had just taken a huge step toward ending this nightmare, but it still hurt like hell. In the days that followed, I felt everything: anger, betrayal, sadness, even guilt. I kept asking myself if I could have done anything differently, if I was somehow to blame for her cheating. But I knew the truth. She made her choice, and I was just the one who got hurt. I started packing up her things, thinking about how to move forward. The house felt emptier than ever. My chest was heavy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd lost more than just my wife. I'd lost some sense of stability, trust, and the future I thought we had. That night, I sat alone, thinking about all the good times, all the lies, and everything in between. I thought about what I would say to her if she ever tried to come back, and honestly, right then, I didn't have an answer. I just knew this wasn't something I could fix. Not anymore. Not after she'd betrayed me so completely. I'd learned a hard lesson. Sometimes love isn't enough, especially when the person you love turns into someone else entirely. And worst of all, I was starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, I deserved better than this. Days turned into a week, and I found myself floating in this strange state of numbness. I thought I was prepared for her to leave, but when she finally walked out that night, it hit harder than I expected. The house was eerily quiet, the silence almost deafening. Everywhere I looked, I saw reminders of her, little things I was too hurt to throw away, pictures of us, her favorite mug, the jewelry she left behind. It all felt like a cruel joke. I kept replaying everything: her lies, her sneers, her betrayal, and wondered how I'd ever trusted her at all. I tried to focus on work, on my kids, but nothing could distract me from the gnawing ache inside. I was angry, furious even, but beneath that I was also heartbroken. I'd built my life around her, and now I was left with nothing but questions and a sinking feeling that I'd been a fool to believe she was the woman I married. One thing was clear, though. I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I needed a plan. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done, not without some kind of response. So I started digging into her phone. I knew it was wrong, but I was desperate. I had to find out if she'd been lying about anything else, if there were more lies hiding behind her pretty face. I found a few texts, nothing explicit at first, but enough to make my blood boil. Flirty messages, suggestive comments about how exciting Ryan was, and a lot of "I miss you and can't wait to see you again." It was worse than I imagined. I also found out she'd been keeping this affair secret for months. She'd been sneaking around behind my back, lying every step of the way, and I hadn't even had a clue. The betrayal cut so deep I thought I might drown in it. I felt humiliated, stupid for not seeing it earlier. How could I have missed all the signs? How did I let this happen? I kept asking myself if I was blind or just too damn trusting. But what really pushed me to the edge was when I saw the messages about the storage room. I knew where she'd been going, what she'd been doing there. It was no coincidence that she'd been so secretive about her Pilates classes. She'd been screwing this guy in that back room in some kind of twisted game I'd never even suspected. I couldn't believe she'd gone that far, that she'd risk everything just for some quick sex. The betrayal wasn't just about her cheating. It was about the fact that she'd lied to my face, made me feel like I was crazy for suspecting anything. That's what hurt the most. She manipulated me, convinced me I was paranoid, and then she'd done this behind my back. That night I sat on the couch, trembling with rage and sadness, clutching my phone like it was a lifeline. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to do something. They'd crossed a line and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. The next step was clear: confront her again, but this time with proof. I needed her to see that I knew everything. I needed her to understand the depth of her betrayal. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't keep living like this, pretending that everything was fine when it was. I deserved better, and she needed to know that I wasn't going to be a fool anymore. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me, not after she'd done this much damage. So I planned my next move carefully. I'd call her and meet her face to face. I'd tell her I knew about Ryan, about the storage room, about everything she'd been hiding. I wanted her to feel the weight of her lies. I didn't know exactly what I'd say yet, but I knew I needed to make her understand that I was done being played. I wasn't just some idiot she could cheat on and then brush aside. I was hurt, angry, and ready to fight for whatever dignity I had left. And as I sat there staring at the messages on my phone, I realized I was on the brink of a breaking point. The storm was coming, and I had no idea what the aftermath would look like, but I knew one thing for sure: nothing would be the same after this. The day of the confrontation finally came. I woke up early, heart pounding, hands trembling slightly. I knew I couldn't keep pretending I was okay, not anymore. I had all the proof I needed: her texts, the pictures I secretly took of her and Ryan that night in the parking lot, even the fact that I knew she'd been sneaking around for months. This wasn't just about a one-night stand. It was about a pattern, a deception that had been eating away at the core of our marriage. I called her in the morning, told her I wanted to see her, that I needed to talk. She hesitated, but I could hear the slight tremor in her voice when she agreed. She came over, looking defensive, with that typical bitchy attitude she'd always had when she was hiding something. I didn't hold back. I laid everything out: how I followed her, what I saw, the messages, the pictures. I played the recordings I had of her laughing with Ryan in the parking lot, the texts where she admitted they'd been screwing around for months. Her face paled, then twisted into something ugly. She tried to deny it at first, calling me crazy, saying I was paranoid. But I pushed harder, showing her the proof, the receipts of her lies. Her excuses started coming fast: it's not what it looks like. It's just sex. I was bored. You don't understand. She said she was just having fun, that I was too boring, that I didn't satisfy her anymore. I could see her trying to manipulate the whole situation, but I wasn't having it. I was pissed, hurt, and mostly disappointed that the woman I loved could do something so cold and calculated. I told her to leave. I told her I was done with the lies, done with the cheating. And when she started crying and begging, I didn't feel anything but a deep sense of emptiness. The woman who used to be my wife, the mother of my kids, had turned into a stranger. She stormed out screaming that I was overreacting, that I was crazy, but I knew I was finally free of her lies. It was the most humiliating moment of my life, but also the moment I decided I would move on somehow, some way. That night I sat alone in the house, feeling like I was in another world. I thought about everything I'd lost: the trust, the future I thought we'd build, the simple happiness of waking up next to someone I thought loved me. Instead, I'd been played for a fool. I was angry at her, yes, but mostly I was angry at myself for not seeing it coming, for ignoring the signs and pretending everything was perfect. I knew I had a long road ahead. I'd have to rebuild myself piece by piece, learn how to trust again if I ever could. I also knew I had to tell my kids, but I didn't know how or when. I just felt exhausted, like I'd been fighting this battle forever and I was finally at the breaking point. But beneath all that, I also felt this strange sense of relief. It was over. The lies, the betrayal, gone. I was finally free to start over, even if I didn't know exactly how. The worst part was knowing that I'd loved her, that I'd given her everything, and she'd thrown it all away for some cheap thrill in a storage room. That's what I kept thinking about: the betrayal, the lies, the fact that she thought she could get away with it. But I also realized something. I deserved better. I deserved a woman who would respect me, who wouldn't cheat and lie behind my back. And maybe, just maybe, I'd find that again someday. But for now, I was just trying to survive the fallout, trying to remember what it felt like to trust someone, and learning how to forgive myself for not seeing it sooner. In the days that followed, I threw myself into figuring out what was next. I started going to therapy, not because I thought I could fix her, but because I needed to fix myself. It was a humbling experience sitting across from someone who just listened while I spilled everything: the anger, the heartbreak, the shame. I realized I'd let her manipulate my emotions for so long that I'd forgotten what I deserved. Slowly, I began to piece myself back together, even if it felt like reconstructing from the rubble. I moved out of the house into a small apartment nearby so I could be close for my kids but not live in the chaos she left behind. I kept my distance from her, not out of spite but because I knew I needed space to heal. It was strange, living apart from someone I'd loved for so many years, but I knew I had to do it to regain my footing. Every day was a battle. One minute I felt fury, the next despair. I learned to accept that healing was not linear, but it was necessary. Looking back, I see this experience as a brutal lesson about trust and honesty. I realize now that sometimes the person you love the most can hurt you the deepest. It's a painful truth, but it's one I had to face head on. I learned that I am stronger than I thought, that I can survive betrayal, and that I can rebuild my life without her. It's not easy and it's not pretty, but it's real. To anyone out there going through something similar, I'd say this: trust your instincts. When something doesn't feel right, don't ignore it. Confront it, even if it's painful. Because the truth, as cruel as it can be, is always better than living in a lie. And remember, you are worth more than someone who cheats and manipulates you. No matter how much you love them, no matter how much pain you're in, you deserve honesty, respect, and kindness. I'll always carry the scars of this betrayal, but I refuse to let them define me. I've learned to forgive myself for ignoring the signs for so long, and I've promised myself to never settle for less than I deserve again. Life is messy, unpredictable, and sometimes cruel, but it's also full of hope. And I believe that eventually I'll find my way back to happiness, alone if I have to, but better and wiser for having survived this. That's the real lesson I take from all this. Life can break you, but it can also rebuild you, stronger than ever before.